All right, gather around, folks, for a story of a life lived, a spirit unbroken, and a destiny, well, you just wait and see. This is Frank Strickland with Hidden History. Good afternoon. Our story begins not in the bright lights of Hollywood, nor the bustling streets of a big city, but in a small, dusty corner of Hialeton, California. The year was 1932, and the world was reeling from the Great Depression. Into this uncertain world, a tiny baby boy arrived, destined for a life far different than anyone could have imagined. But from the very beginning, trouble seemed to find him. At just 2 years old, our little fellow was struck down by spinal tuberculosis. Now, in those days, good health care wasn't as easy to come by, especially for an immigrant family struggling with poverty. The infection, left unchecked, became a cruel twist of fate that confined him to a full body cast. For the next 9 long years, his world was a hospital bed, a sterile room, a window to the world he could only dream of. Doctors, nurses, the distant echoes of childhood laughter, these were his constant companions. He was, to all intents and purposes, a prisoner in his own small body. Then came the war, World War II, a time that reshaped lives and drew lines on a map. Our young hero, still a boy, still in his cast, was suddenly moved, but not to a new hospital or a loving home, but to a Japanese internment camp. Imagine, if you will, being a child, already facing such a monumental battle with your own health, now being thrust into a barbed wire enclosure, simply because of the color of your skin or the heritage of your family. His parents, immigrants working hard to build a life in America, were there with him, their dreams, too, put on hold. But even within those fences, a spirit, resilient as the weeds pushing through the pavement, began to stir. He was an observer, soaking in the quirks and the cadences of human nature. He learned to tell jokes, to lighten the mood, to bring a fleeting smile to the faces around him. Because even in the darkest of times, laughter, you see, is a powerful medicine. Finally, at the age of 12, a miracle, he was free of the cast, free to move, to run, to finally experience the world not from a prone position, but upright on his own 2 feet. And then he was free of the camp. His family, like so many others, started fresh, picking up the pieces in Sacramento. He enrolled in a school for the first time, a stark contrast to the quiet isolation he had always known. He was, as they say, catching up. Life wasn't easy. His father, a man who worked tirelessly in the fields, a man of quiet strength and enduring spirit, passed away. Not from old age, not from illness, but tragically and suddenly in a car accident. It was a profound loss, a turning point that thrust our young man into adulthood far sooner than he might have wished. He took on odd jobs, anything to help support his family. He worked as a data processor for the state, but something inside him yearned for more, for a different kind of stage. He found himself drawn to the world of entertainment, a world of make-believe and laughter, a world where he could shed the limitations of his past. He started small, performing in nightclubs, honing his craft as a stand-up comedian. He was quick-witted, with a twinkle in his eye and a knack for storytelling. He embraced his heritage, weaving it into his routines, finding humor in the everyday, in the universal human experience. He adopted a stage name, a moniker that hinted at a different persona, a broader appeal. He was known for a time as the hip nip. Controversial? Perhaps, but it was a sign of the times, a man trying to find his voice, to carve out his own space in a world that hadn't always been kind to him. He moved to Los Angeles, chasing the dream. He landed small roles, guest appearances on television shows. He was a familiar face, a character actor, always reliable, always bringing a certain charm to the screen. From Happy Days to Sanford and Sons, he was there, making people laugh, making them think. He was building a career, brick by painstaking brick. And then the call came. A film director, a man with a vision, saw something in him, something beyond the usual comedic timing. He saw a depth, a wisdom, a quiet dignity that was perfect for a very particular role, a role that would define him, not just as an actor, but as an icon. He was cast as an unlikely mentor, a man of few words but profound wisdom, teaching a troubled young man about balance, about inner strength, about the importance of waxing on and waxing off. He was a gentle guy, a patient teacher, the figure who embodied the very essence of patience and perseverance. And the film, well, it captured the hearts of millions. It became a cultural phenomenon, inspiring generations. And the boy who spent his early years in a full body cast, the young man who endured the indignity of an internment camp, the comedian who tirelessly worked his way up, was no longer just a familiar face. He was a beloved figure, known the world over for his iconic portrayal. He was Mr. Miyagi. And his real name, the name he was born with, the name that carried the weight of his journey from the humble beginnings to enduring legend, you might know him as Pat Morita.